Now, as we deployed our Flask application, we need to connect it to a database that allows us to access it globally. And since we choose to work on MongoDB, we can use mLab to be our cloud database service, as it hosts MongoDB and could be downloaded as a free add-on in Heroku. But first, we need to initialize our database on mLab. So we need to go to mLab website and sign up and create cluster. When creating cluster, make sure to choose AWS as a cloud provider and choose the nearest region for you and make sure it's free. Then name your cluster and create it. Then start creating database by adding new database user and choosing authentication method. So here on the left menu, go to database access, add new user database, choose password as the authentication method, name your database and set a password for this database. Scroll down and choose database user privileges, make it Atlas admin. Here I created my own database and I named it Flask Mongo, and as a password I typed 123456 underscore UDE. Then go to network access to choose who can access this database by adding app address and choose allow access from anywhere. And this is okay as long as you're the only one who knows the database name and password. Now you need to choose a method to connect your database to your application. Beside cluster, click on connect, then choose connect your application and copy this link. After creating the database, configuring the IP address and network access, and configuring the connecting method, now we need to configure the Flask application to be connected to this database. And actually, there are two ways to do that. The first one is by assigning the link that we have copied from Mongo URI from here instead of Mongo localhost in our code. And keep in mind that this generated link doesn't update it automatically. It means that if you changed the database name inside the cluster, you need also to change it in this link. You can see here, my database name is user database, and it's written also here. But when I copied the link, it was test. So when you change the database name, you need to make sure that the name here is also similar to your database name. The second way of connecting Flask application to mLab is by assigning this value here inside Heroku. And actually, this is a more secure way. In both ways, we are going to follow the rest of these steps by inserting the password here instead of the weird password, and adding secret key, installing the needed packages, and updating the requirement file. So I'm going to walk through the second way. First, we need to go to Heroku dashboard. In Heroku dashboard, click on resources, and on this field, type Mongo. See here, mLab MongoDB. Choose provision for free plan. Then go to settings, scroll down to config vars and reveal config vars. Here you need to edit this value by pasting the value that you've copied before and changing the password here. And the database name. then click Save. Now we need to get MongoDB URI in our code. And to do that, we need to use something called OS environ. And this is actually a mapping object that represents the user's environment variables. So we can get the variables using os.environ.get and the variable name that we need. So we need to modify our code, and also in order to be able to use os.environ, we need also to import os, and when done, we need to install the package dns-python. Then we need to update the requirement file and push our code to Heroku. So let's do that. Here, we use get Mongo URI, and we added a secret key. And we use a secret key here in order to be able to access the session that we need. So let's import OS. And then install the DNS-Python package. Then update the requirement file. So now we have finished the Flask part, and after pushing the last modifications to GitHub, we only need to do some extra more modifications to React application to be deployed to Heroku. To deploy React application to Heroku, first we need to make sure that our application contains a package.json file. You can create this file by typing npm init in the command line in the root path of the React application. Then we need to get npm and node versions by typing npm-v and node-v in the command line, and define them in the first section of the package.json file as shown here. So before dependencies, and make sure to type a comma after finishing. And this is actually to tell Heroku that we are using these versions to run our app. Although Heroku uses Procfile to run deployed applications, but when deploying a React application, Heroku tries to run it from scripts in case it didn't find a Procfile. So we will configure the scripts inside package.json file to let Heroku run this application without a Procfile. There are many tutorials that explain how to deploy React application to Heroku. The easiest way to do that is by using serve package. But as written in these tutorials, the React application should be static in order to be deployed using the serve. And I thought that as we are using a login form, our app is not static anymore. However, one of these tutorials indicates that as long as we are using a Flask as a backend, our application is considered as a static. So I modified scripts block to be as shown in the right side here, and it actually worked. So here in package.json, scroll down to scripts and modify start, and save. Now we need to modify the URL inside Axios. As we saw when we were running locally, the URL points to localhost 3000, which is the port for Flask applications that are running locally. This URL followed by login, and this login calls a post method in our Flask applications. So we only need to get the URL for our Flask application that is deployed on Heroku, and then go to React application. Inside the app.js file, put the link instead of localhost, and make sure that it is followed by /login. Then save changes And inside the command line, type npm run build. And actually, this is to update the Axios attributes everywhere inside the application. Now, as we finished modifications for the React application, we need to create a new repository on GitHub in order to push our React application to it and create a new application on Heroku connected to the React application as we did previously for the Flask application. Then we can go to the deployed React application to check the result. And to check when successfully log in, we can use this following data as email adwebtech@hotmail.com and password from 1 to 6. And it worked. Recap, in this part, we deployed Flask application and connected it to a cloud service database. Then we deployed the React application and we've seen the needed results. Here you can find the resources that have been used for this tutorial. And finally, thank you for watching.